I'm trying to get every single achievement on the Game Pass, using this wheel to pick the game. Now, let's give the wheel a spin. Unfortunately, the footage of me getting Sifu on the wheel spin corrupted, so I do not have that, but please trust me that I did get that game. Sifu is a third-person beat-em-up game that was released in 2022. It's set in China, and it follows the player who is the child of a martial arts school master who seeks revenge on those who are responsible for their father's death. A key part of this game is that every time you die, you're resurrected by a magical talisman, causing your age to go up. If you become too old, you then die permanently. So let's jump into the video and get all of the achievements in Sifu. Sifu starts out with you playing as the enemy. In the tutorial, you fight through the Grandmaster's dojo, where he trains all of his martial artists, taking out each of them as you go. In this part, you can't take any damage, and it gives you the perfect opportunity to start to learn some of the mechanics and get a hang of the moves. Eventually, you'll make it to the Grandmaster. Here again, you'll learn the mechanics of the boss fights, which are located at the end of each of the stages. Bosses operate slightly different in this game, and you have to concentrate on breaking their structural gauge. You can do this by doing damage, perfectly timing blocks, or just avoiding their strikes. Once you do enough damage to the boss and break their structure, you then get the opportunity to either spare them or kill them. Once you complete your beatdown of the Grandmaster and kill him, you'll unlock the first achievement of the game, the Old Grandmaster. This will also start the story of revenge. What caught me off guard immediately in this game is actually how difficult it is. When you don't know the mechanics and are still learning the moves, it's very easy to take a lot of damage and die. Fortunately, this is a key mechanic to the game, and it gives you an extra opportunity to learn and continue going forward. On top of aging when you die, you also get the opportunity to unlock some extra skills. These skills basically break down to different moves that you can perform. When I died for the first time, this was a perfect opportunity to unlock one of these, and it also unlocked the achievement, Life is Your Teacher. As you play through the game, you will get better and better at the combat. This means stringing together combos and taking out enemies quicker than ever. When you do enough damage and break structures, you can do takedown. These are cool little combos that take out the enemy immediately. In the first area, you'll come up to a corridor where there are 3 enemies. This is a perfect opportunity to get the achievement Lightning Hands. To get this achievement, you just have to perform 3 takedowns in 12 seconds. Once you get to the end of the squats stage, you'll come up against the boss called Fajar. All of the bosses throughout this game are split into 2 sections. In each of these sections, they'll have slightly different moves and they'll attack very differently. Fajar's first stage is very simple, with him having a small knife and his attacks being quite basic. However, when you enter into the second stage, it gets a bit more advanced. Fajar pulls out a much bigger machete and becomes much more aggressive. Combined with a couple of surprise attacks, it does get a little bit trickier. However, this is the first boss of the entire game, so in comparison, this is quite easy. Eventually, after doing enough damage and breaking his structure enough, you'll get the opportunity to kill Fajar. Through my first playthrough, I made sure to kill every single one of these enemies to get the true revenge. After you do this, you'll unlock the achievement, the Assault. After finishing the squats level, it's now time to move on to the club. In the club, the aesthetic changes drastically and you'll find yourself coming up against new types of enemies. Eventually, after fighting through the club, you'll find yourself upon the pit. The pit is just a small sunken arena where you've got people fighting. One of the people fighting in this pit is a Juggernaut. These are the much larger enemy type. Once you drop into the pit, make sure you target the Juggernaut and beat him first to unlock the achievement, the Pit Protector. Eventually, you'll come up against the boss in the club. This boss is called Sean. The main difference between Sean and the previous boss is the fact that he's using a staff. The staff does a lot of damage, but it also telegraphs most of his attacks. This means that they can easily be parried or dodged. What also makes this easier is the fact that you can enter the boss fight with a weapon. This enables you to do a lot of damage quickly. As with the previous fight, eventually you'll do enough damage and break his structure enough to be able to move on to the second phase. In the second phase, Sean uses his ability to wield fire. This means that the arena catches fire and also his staff does. This means that his damage is increased. Unfortunately, at this point, you'll likely not have your weapon as it will have broken by now, so your damage will have decreased. This obviously makes this stage a little bit harder, but still, I found it generally easier than the first boss. Eventually, once again, you'll do enough damage and get the opportunity to kill Sean. As with all the fights, you obviously don't have to pick to kill them, but it does make the fight easier as you don't need to get the health down to as low as you do when you want to spare them. If you do pick the kill option though, you will unlock the achievement, the Hateful Pole Fighter. With Sean defeated, it is now time to take on the third level, the museum. Throughout each of the levels, you'll find shrines. You can interact with these and it gives you the opportunity to level up various abilities. The currency that this uses to level up is your age, the score that you get on the level, or the XP that you've earned. Obviously, the better of each of these categories, the better the upgrade. This time, I used the opportunity to unlock the highest age-based shrine reward for the first time. This then got me the achievement Qi Gong Essence. As you travel up the different levels of the museum, you'll come across an enemy looking at a strange mask. This is one of the many mini-bosses scattered throughout this game. They are much stronger than a normal enemy and are usually protecting a collectible or something interesting to get throughout the levels. Due to them being much stronger as well, they can be quite difficult to take down. Eventually, after relentlessly attacking, you'll take down this mini-boss. With them out the way, you can now go and interact with the strange mask. After interacting with the mask, you'll unlock the Mighty Calbut move. This is another move that you add to your arsenal that you can use on the enemies throughout the game. Alongside that, you'll also unlock the achievement Path of the Prospect. Once again, you'll get to the main boss of this level. This time, it's against a foe called Kuroki. Kuroki's first stage can be quite difficult. This is down to the fact that she uses bladed weapons, meaning the blocking isn't useful as it still deals chip damage. Alongside this, her combos can be pretty deadly too. It's important to keep your distance during these combos, otherwise it will deal a lot of damage, but once she finishes, get in close and do some damage. Once again, eventually you'll do enough damage to be able to move on to the second stage of this fight. This is now where I struggled quite a lot. Instead of going for massive combos at close range, she now goes for ranged attacks. This means that if you're not very good at dodging, you'll get hit a lot. Unfortunately, when I first played through this, I wasn't very good at this, so I died quite a bit. You can see this with the age that I finished off this fight at. Throughout all these lives though, I managed to do enough damage and kill Kuroki, getting the achievement, A Lady's Blood in the Snow. The skills that you unlock on the skill tree do not automatically carry over to future playthroughs. This means that you have to permanently unlock them. To do this, you just have to pump more XP into these skills and then eventually you'll permanently unlock them. When you do this for the first time, you'll unlock the achievement State of Constant Learning. Next up is the fourth level of the game, the Tower. As with all the levels, you'll find plenty of areas where you have to take on multiple enemies. Also, because you're progressing through the levels, it's getting progressively harder and harder. This means that you need to really make the most of the weapons that you find around the map. Alongside using them just as standard melee weapons, you can also throw them. Alongside doing great damage and stunning enemies, after you do it for a little while, you'll also unlock the achievement Street Fighting. As you're dropping down the many floors of the tower, you'll find yourself a little shortcut. However, it's not a shortcut and you'll die. This does pick you up an achievement though, Take Damage to save time. At the end of the tower, you'll come up against the next boss of the game. This time it's against an elderly woman called Jin Feng, otherwise known as the CEO.
The bell tolls for you. The Guardian's legacy.
The first phase of this fight consists mainly of very long ranged attacks. These ranged attacks do a lot of damage. A lot of these also stagger you as well, so combos can be hit pretty easily by her. The best thing that you can do is try and stay as close as possible, dodging these attacks when she does them. Once again, with this fight you get the opportunity to bring a weapon in. This helps out as it also enables you to do a lot of damage. This fight, however, is still very, very difficult. After doing this for a while, you'll get the opportunity to perform a takedown and move this fight onto the second phase. Unlike a lot of the other fights, her second phase mainly consists of the same moves. The only tricky aspect of this though is that the timing is now very different. This just means that it can take you a little bit of time to get used to the new timings, as you'll obviously be used to the first phases. On top of this as well, she'll become more aggressive and the attacks will be more rapid. Just try and keep as close as you can and just do as much damage in the short periods that you get. Keeping this aggression up is key to finishing this fight. To continue the trend with all the other fighters, once I get the opportunity, I kill Jin Feng. This then unlocks the next achievement of the game, Lady Wing Chun. Now it's time to move on to the final stage. This stage is called the Sanctuary. The Sanctuary is by far the hardest stage in the entire game. This is down to the amount of enemies and the types of enemies that you'll find throughout the stage. This added together can become quite difficult to manage, so you just have to make sure that you're continually moving and making sure that you're hitting those combos. After fighting through the entirety of Sanctuary, you'll come across the final boss of the game, Yang.
You want revenge, little brother?
Yang is the 5th and final boss of the game and is the ultimate test of the combos and strategies that you've learned over the course of your playthrough. Yang forces you to hone in on dodging, blocking and countering at every available opportunity throughout his onslaught of attacks. The key thing with Yang is the fact that he remains unpredictable throughout the whole fight. In the first phase, you just have to concentrate on blocking his attacks and doing damage where you can. Eventually, using many lives, you'll be able to complete a takedown on Yang. This then moves you on to the second phase of this fight. Once you enter the second phase, you'll notice very quickly that the arena is much smaller. This means that it's much more difficult to gain distance between yourself and Yang. Fortunately, most of his combos remain the same, with the exception of a few different moves. This means that if you've learnt them, you can easily parry most of these attacks. But the one thing that you've got to keep in mind are these are all performed much quicker. As with the first phase though, I'd highly recommend trying to stick as close as possible to Yang, trying to get those parries wherever possible. Using these techniques and perfecting this fight, eventually you'll be able to take down Yang. This will unlock the achievement Furious Fists. The next two achievements I went to collect are Detective Story and Drunken Fighter. To get these, you just have to collect all the collectibles in each of these stages. These can be found scattered around the map or by defeating certain enemies. Once you collect all the collectibles in each of these areas, the achievements will unlock. After going out of my way to collect these collectibles, it only seemed right to finish the final boss by sparing them. Alongside this, I would also aim to complete a boss fight without dying once. If I'm able to do both of this on stage 2 the club whilst fighting Sean, I'll get the following two achievements. These are Kill Nil and Tiger on Fire. To spare a boss, you have to ignore the takedown instruction and continue to do damage and break their structure. If you manage to break their structure when they're on low enough health, you'll get the option to spare them. Simply click this and you will. Doing this without dying will get the talisman for the boss fight and unlock the following achievements. It's now time to get some more achievements that are located in the museum stage. These achievements are Martial Artist, Be Like Water My Friend, and Source of Flying Daggers. Martial Artist is the first of these three achievements and is another collectible related achievement. Once again, you just have to get every single collectible in the museum stage, filling out the detective board, which then unlocks the achievement. As you progress up the levels of the museum, you'll make it to the second floor. If you have a weapon in your hand, this gives you the perfect opportunity to get the achievement, Be Like Water My Friend. Simply throw the weapon against the enemy leaning on the banister to stun him, and then perform a throw move on him to launch him over the banister. Once again, you'll now find yourself back at the boss fight against Kuroki. As I said earlier, I really struggled in the first time I fought Kuroki, but the second time, after learning a lot more about the game and just getting better at it, it became much easier. This is because I was using dodges more and also perfecting the timing of the parry move. As like before with Sean, where we spared him, you don't want to kill Kuroki and make sure you spare her to be able to get a hold of the achievement and also the water talisman. Once again, just concentrate on getting her down to low enough health and then breaking her structure, and it'll give you the option to do this. Now it's time to move on to Museum with the aim to collect two more achievements in this game. These are Knowledge Greed and Iron Money. Knowledge Greed, similar to all the other stages, is just the achievement for collecting all the collectibles in that stage. Whilst going for these two achievements, I managed to pick up an extra two. The first of these was Stunt Master. To get this achievement, you basically just have to climb over different items in the environment. I imagine most people have got this achievement much earlier, but for some reason, I just wasn't climbing over enough things, I guess. Eventually, it will just pop. The next one of the achievements is Qigong Mind. This is very similar to the achievement that I got earlier in the game, Qigong Essence, but instead of using the age to unlock the highest skill, you have to use the XP instead. Simply get to a shrine and unlock the highest skill-based shrine reward. This will get you to the end of the tower level, and once again you have to fight the CEO. Once again, this is important to remember that the goal of this is to spare them and not kill them. I ran into the issue a couple of times where I'd see the takedown prompt pop up, panic, press it, and then kill them instead of sparing them. This therefore means that you then have to run back through the entire mission and get to this point. This can take quite a while and can be quite annoying. Once you spare the CEO, you'll get the achievement Iron Money alongside the Metal Talisman. After fighting through each of the stages and sparing each of the final bosses, I got to the final stage. This is where I found out the hard way that you cannot actually spare Yang if you haven't spared every single final boss up to this point. Unfortunately, with the first boss, I'd killed them instead of spared them, which I hadn't realised at this point. However, there is one positive with this. Because I'd got much better at the game than I was in my first playthrough, I managed to finish the game at the age of 25. This meant that I unlocked 2 achievements. Scareless for beating the game at an age less than 50 years old, and Prodigal Child for beating the game while being 25 years old or less. After learning this, the only way going forward now was to go back to the squats and take on the final boss from the squats level once again. Now that I played through the game quite a few times, this was much easier and really didn't take very long to complete. After getting the boss weak enough, I decided to spare him, getting me the achievement Muck Yan Master as well as the Wood Talisman. Now that I'd actually spared all of the final bosses up to the last one, it's now time to go back to Sanctuary and beat Yang. Because I'd already got the achievement for completing the game under the age of 25, it now means that I can dabble and get some other achievements. The 2 achievements I'm aiming to get on this run through of Sanctuary are Warriors from the Mountain and Healing Memory. To get Warriors from the Mountain, you simply have to throw an enemy into the mountains. The best way to do this is attract one of the enemies that are in the centre of the area over towards the banister. From here, either damage them like you usually would, or try and parry their attack to stun them. After this, then use the throw move to launch them over the banister into the mountains. With some of the collectibles, they're tied to the bosses. This means that if you spare them or kill them, you might get a different collectible. The final collectible for the Sanctuary is linked to sparing Yang, so to get Healing Memory, you just have to spare him. After you fight Yang like normal and then choose to spare him, it then goes to a 3rd phase. Here, neither of you have health bars, but Yang does have a structure bar. All you have to do is break this, but it can be difficult because it does recover very quickly. I would highly recommend on trying to get as many parries as possible, as it does a massive dent into the structure bar. Once you do this, you properly spare Yang, and then this gives you the final collectible you need for Sanctuary, unlocking you the achievement Healing Memory. Also, because you've spared Yang, you also get the Earth Talisman, meaning that you've collected all Talisman and achieved Wood. This then unlocks the achievement Legendary Talismans of Wuxing.
This is Buddha.
Now that all the main story achievements have been unlocked, it's now time to go for all the random ones that are still left. The first of these is Dance of the Praying Mantis. To get this achievement, you just have to throw an enemy a certain amount of times. This amount of times is not specified, so just basically stun enemies and then throw them as much as you can until the achievement unlocks. The next achievement is the final of the shrine-based achievements. This is Qigong Breath. As with the other ones where you had to unlock the highest age and XP based shrine rewards, this time you just have to do it with the score. So as with the other ones, just get to a shrine and make sure you upgrade the score related one. After doing this, I then managed to unlock 2 achievements pretty quickly, one after another. There's an area of the squats level called the hangar. In here, there's a bunch of enemies that you've got to fight. There is also an achievement linked to this. This achievement is Rumble in the Hangar and is for beating this area in 1 minute 20 seconds. This seems like quite a lot of time, but it's actually quite difficult to do and did take me a few attempts. The key part to making sure that you can get this done is just doing as much damage and keeping your combo as high as possible. The other achievement that I unlocked because of this is I Know Kung Fu, and this is for getting 10,000 score on a level. Obviously, as I was keeping my combo high and playing very aggressive, this meant that 10,000 points came quite quickly. There is a feature within Sifu that allows you to take photos. This is not a feature that I used at all. However, there is an achievement linked to this. This achievement is Come Snap With Me, and simply all you have to do is take a photo in the photo mood. I previously went over the achievement I Know Kung Fu, which requires you to reach a level score of 10,000. This can be difficult in itself. Unfortunately, there is another achievement where you've got to reach the level score of 20,000. This is ferocity, speed, strength, accuracy. And to get this achievement, you need all 4 of those things. I found that the club was the best one to go for as it has the most enemies in the area to take out. Alongside this, the cheats that you can use also don't disable the achievement. This means that you can turn a couple on that will help keep up your combos and give you higher scores. Once you reach 20,000 score, it won't pop automatically and you'll have to leave the level, but once you do this, you'll see the pop-up appear. At this point, we're now moving on to the final few achievements of this game. 4 of these are linked to the combat, weapons, or attacks. These are Master of the Phoenix Eye Fist, Sword Stained with Blood, Kung Fu Tussle, and the 36th Chamber of Kung Fu. To get Master of the Phoenix Eye Fist, you have to use each of the focus attacks at least once. This sounds easy enough, but I'm pretty sure that this has to be done in one level and can't be spread throughout the game, because otherwise I think I would have already got it. With this being the case, I found the best way to go for this is to go to the training area and then just do them all there. This is because you don't need to get your focus up and you can just do them back to back. However, you do have to have them all unlocked. This means that you just have to play throughout the game, making sure that you unlock all of these at the tree using your XP. Once you do this and then use them all, the achievement will then pop. For Sword Stained with Blood, you just have to kill an enemy with a bladed weapon using a one-shot attack. I found the best way to do this was in the tower level down in the ruins. There's an enemy stood in front of a shrine that isn't really paying attention that you can get up close and personal with and they won't attack you first. When you get close enough, use a charged attack and it should kill them in one hit, getting the achievement. Kung Fu Tussle is got by hitting 3 enemies with a single strike. I'm not sure there's too many ways to do this other than the way that I completed this. The way that I managed to do this is go into this area in the sanctuary level where there's the little statue. Also, make sure that you have a staff weapon. Then make sure that at least 3 enemies come over closely and you use the focus attack Sweep. If they're then close enough, you should then hit 3 of them in one attack, getting the achievement. The final of these combat achievements is the 36th Chamber of Kung Fu. This is by far the worst achievement in the game. To get this, you have to perform each takedown at least once. In total, there are 22 different takedowns that you need to complete. These are broken down into using different weapons and then doing them in different areas such as on ledges, near walls, on the ground, or standing. On top of this, there's no way to track this, so it just becomes trial and error and just making a note of which ones you've managed to do. After a while though, you will eventually manage to get every single one complete and then the achievement will pop. The final achievement that I needed to get in this game was Old Child. To get this achievement, you just have to get to the oldest age you can reach in the game. This age is age 70. The easiest way to do this is to go into the cheats menu and change the setting to have the starting age at age 70. From here, just load into any of the levels and the achievement will then pop. This obviously stops you from having to die over and over again to reach age 70. What did I think of Sifu then? For a game that I was kind of aware of by seeing all the awards that it won, I hadn't really seen much of the gameplay and also wasn't really aware of what the gameplay really was. I just thought it was a standard beat 'em up. But from playing it, it's absolutely amazing. It's probably one of my favourite games that I've played in this series and probably one of my favourite games I've ever played. The combat is great, the graphics are great, the art style is unbelievable. The story isn't anything special, but that's not really what you're going into the game for. It's also one of those games that when you start off, you're shit at it, but as you progressively play it, you get better and better, which I think just really adds to it because you start getting those combos flowing and it's just really quite rewarding. The achievements are great, maybe bar the one where you have to get all the takedowns because that's just a bit of a pain because you can't track it, but other than that, I had a really good time playing it. If you managed to reach this part of the video, I really appreciate it, and if you've got any advice on how to improve these going forward, I'd also really appreciate that too. So thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next one.